Let's remake some more skins. So if you've seen the last video, you'll know that I remade the first 4 skins in my Monstercat Genre series from over a year ago. In this video, I'll remake the next 4, based on Hard Dance, Trance, Drumstep, and Glitch Hop / Moombahton / Moombahcore. So I guess we'll start off this video with the skin I made for Hard Dance. Now this skin has a bit of a funny name, and that name is Bong, which sounds a bit stupid if you don't know what the name is actually about, but if you're into hardstyle in particular, you might have an idea what that name is about. Now, Bong is, you could basically describe that as the onomatopoeia for a hardstyle kick. More specifically, the kind of hardstyle kicks you would have seen back around 2016. Nowadays, they tend to be a lot more high-pitched, and they don't really have the crunch at the end, which is the part that actually sounds like oh. So they basically just sound like boop. But you know, Bong is very recognizable even today, so I decided, you know, that was a good title for the skin. So this skin, what kind of aesthetic does it use compared to the others? Hardstyle and hard dance genres in general, a lot of them have a slightly militant style, like in their aesthetic, but also they can be like quite rebellious. I know they're kind of related, but they're also kind of different. They're a little less gamer-y, if you will, than something like dubstep, for example, or electro house. But you know, any kind of EDM can be suited to a gamer aesthetic. But this one, you can see there, I chose like a very urban, rebellious style. So shading most of this skin, I mean, it's the same kind of deal anytime. You know, most of it is fine. Doing the hair now, it's a little more complex. As you can see, I used the same dye effect that I did for the dubstep skin. I just changed the colors, basically. And the thing is, I actually had so much trouble trying to record me making this skin, because you see, the first time I recorded it, it went alright, but I forgot to actually stop recording with OBS, which meant that I lost all my footage when I shut down my computer. And then the next 2 times, I like got partway through recording, but then like there was some sort of disruption that stopped me from being able to continue, or I just accidentally paused it and then continued in a place that would have given a massive continuity error. So I basically had no choice but to recreate the whole thing, even though I'd actually already made the remake of this. But as you can see, as I near the end here, I'm getting most of the way, but then I realized there's one little thing missing. So I add that in, you know, it's something we kind of see a little less of now in 2022 than 2021, but I remember to add it back in. And then that's the skin done. So now that Hard Dance is done, we'll move on to my personal favorite genre in EDM in general, actually, not just Monstercat, and that is Trance. Now, Trance is a relatively rare genre on Monstercat. It used to be extremely rare. Back around the time I got into the label, so that was around late 2017, it was like a once a year thing to get a trance on the label. But now that we have Monstercat Silk, it happens a little more often. Not that much more often. I think Silk is dominated by progressive house and a bit of deep house as well. But there is trance on there every so often, like Maverick. That is so good. Oh my god. This one is a little different to house. Trance is often compared to house a lot, again because, you know, progressive trance and progressive house in particular have a lot of crossover. I don't think anyone's gonna mix up hard trance and, I don't know, future house. But sometimes progressive house and progressive or even tech trance can have some crossover with themselves. But the way I see it is trance has always had a bit more of a wintry sound to it. Now that I know that sounds kind of weird out loud, but if you think about it, it makes sense. Trance synths use this sort of twinkling effect that isn't really used in house. house synths tend to sound a little more watery, I guess. God, I probably said that so weird. Yeah, house synths sound watery. God, watery is a hard word to say. But anyway, yeah, I gave this guy a hoodie and like longer pants and all that because I think of Trance as being from a slightly colder environment than house, or not being from there, but like being set there. But then once I had the hair shading done on this skin, doing the rest of it again is pretty simple. But you'll notice near the end that I keep pausing and starting again because I keep missing out tiny little details like the hood on the hoodie and the headphones and a few other things. So, you know, I don't always have the best memory, but at least I manage to actually get these recorded because sometimes I have to add these in afterwards when I've already finished my recording, which could be quite annoying. But in this case, that didn't actually happen. I did actually have to redo the Monstercat logo at the end though, because I forgot to download the final version of this that had the Monstercat logo on the back of the hoodie. But I have that now. And so we're getting towards the end. You see me mentioning the hood earlier. There it goes in now. Pretty simple. Hoodie shading is a little weird for me sometimes. I end up going back and forth on how the hood itself should be shaded, but I think I've established a formula now. And then we put in the Monstercat logo, and then we're finished the song for Trance. So now the third skin of this video is the remake of the one that I made for Drumstep. Drumstep is basically just a hybrid of two other genres, which, as its name suggests, are drum and bass and dubstep. But in 2013 and 2014, it got so popular just because of Flight that it basically became its own trend, completely separate from either dubstep or drum and bass. Of course, you did have times when like dubstep would speed it up a little bit, or drum and bass would randomly drop in a half-time drop in, say, 2012. But in 2013 and 2014, it was just the case that literally every song would do that, especially drum and bass going half time. You know, there was what's a good example, Dreamcatcher by Ramesses B. That's a very good example where the second drop is half time. This skin, you may notice, it's a little unusual. It's part of the reason why I pretty much never do skins that are of an ambiguous gender, or like non-binary skins or androgynous skins, because I use particular features for gender in my skins that are hard to mesh well, or if they do mix well together, it kind of is the case where one of them is a very minor detail when it comes to the gender of a skin. Like the height of the waist, for example. I use a slightly higher waist on girls than I do on boys. But if I had a male skin where the waist was a little higher, probably wouldn't really change that much. So it's kind of hard to make it look like a true hybrid rather than something that very much leans one way or very much leans the other. You can see on this that I ended up going back on the shading of the pink just to make it a little more vibrant, because in that particular range of hues, I find that steps of 5% for the value often give you too dull of a contrast. So I often end up changing it to like steps of 7 or 8 or sometimes even 10%. Then you can see there the visualizer go in on the back of the hat, or is it the front of the hat? It's kind of hard to tell when the hat is backwards. In a moment, oh actually I've put it in already. You can also see the hair sticking out of the front of the hat, which is something that, I mean, people used to do that in their skins quite a bit, but you rarely see it nowadays. And it's not easy to make it look good. Like, it often just looks like the hair is sticking up randomly into it, and like there's no natural element to it at all. But then doing the rest of the skin, you know, it's the same kind of deal as always. So it comes together very nicely, and I actually think that trying to combine the genders actually worked out really well in the end, but it did take a bit of, you know, tweaking. So now the last skin of this video is for Glitch Hop and Moombahcore and Moombahton. Basically all the 110 BPM-ish genres out there. Well, not all of them actually. Doesn't really cover industrial or anything based on synthwave or retrowave. But like all the bass genres, except Moombahton isn't really a bass genre. I mean, it is to an extent, but the basses tend to not be that distorted. So I don't really know how to classify things. I guess you could just say like this is a lot of mid-tempo genres that are not industrial and are not like retro sounding, if that makes sense. So on this skin, what kind of interesting features did I use this time? You'll see it coming up in a bit, but right now it looks pretty much as plain as it can get. But things will turn around in a little bit. You see me add the visualizer in there and the Monstercat logo, both of which, you know, don't really have that much to write home about it. But then, whoa, what was that on the hair? Yeah, that's right. I decided to do, well, not this time, but like all the way back when I first made this skin. I decided to try something interesting with the hair. Now, you know I've already done that hair dye effect several times at this point. But on this time, I decided to do a slightly different approach with the hair dye, where I did a sort of street pattern. You know, now that I think about it, he kind of looks like a footballer or a soccer player. To be clear, that's not American football. That's, you know, association football. I need to clarify this because I know most of the people on Skindex who follow me are American or like Canadian. So, you know, they might get just slightly confused. But anyway, that's mostly irrelevant. Shading isn't irrelevant though, and as usual, it just kind of goes how it always does. So I have the dark parts marked in, then I do the lighter parts. It's kind of like muscles, not exactly. Then I just do a little bit of contouring around the, I guess, the bottom edges of the head. And then it's time to shade the hair. Now, you'll see me kind of go back and forth a little bit on this one because I'm trying to do something that's both consistent with my style and also looks good. So I do change my mind on what the color should be quite a few times, especially when I get to the green part. As you can see here, I currently only have 3 colors, but I end up expanding that to my usual 5 in a moment. So you'll see there on the palette in the bottom left, I will add in 2 more colors coming towards the end. Now there they go. There they added in. So I add those in and things start to look a little more interesting. The only thing is the one on the left does kind of look a little dark, but hey, that's just how my style goes. And then adding in some final details is the same as always, and then it's done. Now let's look at both versions of each skin side by side. Once again, a lot has changed. Next time, I'll redo the remaining Monstercat genre skins. So if that's something you want to see, subscribe by clicking on the left and enable notifications by clicking the bell. Don't forget to also click the like button down below if you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching and have a good night or day.